New demo of Tempest Rising has something for everyone, and it is available from the 20th of January to the 3rd of February as part of the Steam's RTS Fest. You can turtle up in a huge base with walls, mines and turrets in Skirmish against the AI on a 4-player free-for-all map, sending out support powers or aircraft to rain hell on them. You can also play with your friends in custom multiplayer matches online, or if you like to show off your skill to other players and climb the leaderboards, you can do so in the ranked multiplayer matchmaking mode in 1v1 or 2v2. I'm going to cover base building, resource collection, unit recruitment, taking up using abilities and superpowers, unlocking doctrine upgrades, and a bunch of other elements you might not even know about Tempest Rising's gameplay. In addition to this complete tutorial, I will show you several multiplayer and skirmish matches and many examples of unit interactions, differences between weapon and armor types and values, use of abilities and super weapons. The link to the demo and Steam store page is in the description, as are videos to more new RTS game demos.
Fine. Let them come.
Now let's start with the absolute basics, because no matter if you create a custom match in multiplayer, be that online or in skirmish, the options and available maps are the same. You can pick the GDF or Tempest Dynasty factions, slot, color and team, and if in skirmish, bots and their difficulty level. Starting funds can be set from 6,000 to 20,000, you can play with or without a starting army and choose the victory condition. Destroy all buildings is the one you're probably most used to from other RTS games. The Alps is a 4-player map, meaning 2v2s or free-for-alls, while Overgrown Oasis and Altitude are made for 1v1 matches. Full release version of Tempest Rising will have 9 maps, with more coming in the future. Since I like the Dynasty faction more, I will first talk about how to start and play with them. The first building you queue up is the machine shop, as that is where you can train the Tempest Rig, which is the Dynasty's mobile refinery and harvester all rolled into one. Another unique aspect of the Dynasty faction are the plants you can enable at their HQ construction yard. The logistics plan boosts your Tempest Rig's movement speed and harvesting speed, as well as the speed of building construction at the cost of 100 power, which is the same amount you start the game with. Meaning that when you enable the logistics plan, you reduce the time necessary to construct the machine shop, but put yourself right at the limit for power consumption. To rotate a building, just use your mouse scroll. Constructing the machine shop now puts you in a low power state, meaning recruitment of units will take 50% longer. Which is why your next building has to be the power plant with its 100 extra power production. Dynasty's next ace up its sleeve is the power distribution mode of the power plant building. When turned on, it will damage production buildings in a small area around it, but boost their unit production speed. You can offset this with the repair ability, but it will eat up your funds. In the skirmish free-for-all match against 3 AI players, I set 6,000 starting funds, as this is what you will usually play like in the multiplayer, and even if you play in skirmish, starting with 20,000 funds might let the AI overwhelm you too soon when you're still learning the game. Once the first Tempest Rig is produced, you select it and use the deploy function, or just hit the default C key and plant it next to the nearest Tempest field, where it will detach its threads, which are its 4 automated harvesters, becoming immobile. Next, you can construct the barracks for infantry recruitment, which can also heal them in a small area. Once constructed, you want to get technicians, which are Tempest Dynasty's engineers, and use them to capture neutral buildings spread across the map, which offers several benefits. On this particular map, the Tempest field next to my base has no root nodes, meaning that the Tempest plants won't regenerate, and I will eventually exhaust this resource field. But on the rest of the map, there are both normal and large such root nodes, which regenerate Tempest plants, meaning you can keep on playing if you expand and take them over. It is funny how the sandworms of Dune and Generation of Spice described in that novel back in 1965 still influences games and media made today. Anyway, to bring unit production back to full speed, we have to construct a new power plant, but if we lack the funds to do so, we can go into the Vehicles tab and right-click to put the next Tempest Rig on hold, meaning it stops draining our funds and lets the power plant be constructed. This certainly isn't the only way to open a match or the most optimal one, especially as different starting map settings will change how you play. So let me give you an example of how you can practice and improve your opening. First, I click on the HQ and hit the C key to activate the logistic plan to reduce building construction time, and immediately after hit F1 to start the construction of the machine shop, whose construction time is now reduced by 5.4 seconds. But since my power drain is 100 out of 100 capacity, the moment I deploy the machine shop, I have to turn off the logistics plan by again hitting the C key. Now I start recruiting a Tempest Rig and building a power plant because I want to use the power distribution plan to speed up my Tempest Rig's recruitment time. So once the power plant is down, I hit the C key on it, and with the distribution plan in effect, the training time of the Tempest Rig is reduced by 7 seconds. Now if I again want to have the logistics plan in effect, as it speeds up harvesting operations and construction, I need to increase power production more with a second power plant. Once it is constructed, I click on the HQ again and hit the C key to turn the logistics plan back on. The health of my machine shop will keep going down until at 30% it isn't even affected by the distribution mode anymore. Since I don't want to spend funds on repairing it, I need to turn off this power mode. Now I can focus on constructing the barracks and a third Tempest Rig once I have 2 harvesters on the Tempest field and my income increases. And you can practice this sequence until you can shave off several seconds, and in this example, my barracks was built several seconds faster at exactly 2 minutes 2 seconds instead of the previously 2 minutes 6 seconds. Okay, I know this is advanced stuff and it is going to be more worthwhile to those of you who love multiplayer and competing, so let's get back to the basics. With my first technician, I want to take over the nearest neutral building. This one is the Tempest Production Center, which when captured supplies you with 50 credits every 4 seconds and generates 100 power. Even if destroyed, you can bring it back to operation by sending another technician to it. This is not the only way to passively generate funds in this game, and I will explain more later in the video. Another type of a capturable building is the Mercenary outpost, which functions similarly to the barracks, provides a build radius to construct buildings around, and gives you an ability to deploy a mercenary ambush in your vision range. They are all lightly armed, so this is most useful at the start of a match. Then you have the garage, which when captured repairs yours or your allies' vehicles in a small area around it. Lastly, we have the mission control building, which acts as a sort of a backup radar/minimap. It also has a build radius around it for allied construction. Once you have a third Tempest Rig, you can move it to a more distant Tempest field, depending on the map you are playing on, preferably one that has a root node which will regrow it. Since the Dynasty faction is power hungry, you need to keep building new power plants if you want to add more unit recruitment buildings. Deploying these power plants next to such buildings makes sure you can later enable the distribution mode and boost their recruitment speed. This effect stacks twice, so if you use 2 power plants to boost it, it will produce almost twice as fast. And this is exactly what you want, to expand your harvesting operations to as many fields as fast as you can, as Tempest Rising is not a slow game, and a single big fight can cost you tens of thousands of resources in vehicles and troops. Getting attacked on the 4th or 5th minute is to be expected, and this is why it is a good idea to have a defensive turret already finished in your defensive build queue, so you can place it at the location of the attack. This is also why you want to capture and hold as many regular, non-special neutral buildings with your infantry early on, as these represent a way to control access to your base. All maps have many paths to your base, and most of these can be held like this, especially in the early game. Additionally, you can benefit from the height advantage of the defender, who can see further into the fog of war when on top of a hill. You can offset the damaging effects of our power plant in a distribution mode with the repair action, but do keep in mind you are constantly bleeding funds doing so. The second machine shop is the one you will be pumping out combat vehicles from, like the Havoc, which is a cheap and lightly armored mobile missile platform used to defend against enemy air units and harass vehicles. Later, you can upgrade it to transport a few units. The Pillager tank is the one equipped with a flamethrower, and it is mostly an anti-infantry vehicle, but can also damage buildings. It is especially good for burning out a garrison building full of enemy infantry. When destroyed, it leaves behind an Igniter Corps unit, which is an infantry unit with a similar flamethrower weapon. Tempest Dynasty's first two infantry units that you have access to are similarly specialized. The Dynasty Guard is the most basic unit, using a rapid-fire SMG and only an anti-infantry unit until you tech up, and then it gains a passive ability called Tempest Vials, which activates when a unit is ran over by an enemy vehicle, which then becomes Tempest Charged. A mechanic I will explain later. Additionally, when you upgrade your HQ to a Bastion, Dynasty Guard units gain an anti-tank grenade as a personal weapon, not an active ability, with a long cooldown between uses. These two abilities give it the utility to remain useful even in the endgame, preventing it from becoming obsolete. The Missile Trooper is the second available Dynasty infantry unit, and its missile launcher is effective versus both vehicles and air units. Its ability is Sprint, which lets it move a short distance with a temporary speed boost. Basic turrets for defense are unlocked early, but to construct walls around your base you have to construct a radar station. It also unlocks the Boar tank and the salvage van in the machine shop. If you have some free funds, you can start investing in doctrines depending on what you want to boost, economy, buildings or units. Some doctrines are based on percentage increases to health or damage, while others are more significant and change units' utility. The next doctrine in this tree increases veterancy leveling speed of units. Once the radar station is constructed, walls and many other things become unlocked, but for unlocking specialist units, you still need the specialist bureau. A tip for you here is that turrets act as starting positions for wall construction and let you draw out walls without having a starting wall segment, but you can only build them in your construction range. As for gates, these can only be constructed over existing walls with enough length. Now, if you have noticed that when my units are grouped they travel at the same speed, this is an option I have enabled in the game's submenu. Scroll down and find the default unit movement behavior and you can switch between synchronized or default movement. Once this is changed, my fastest units get ahead of all the others, so keep this option in mind when you play and adjust to your playstyle. Boar tanks and salvage vans both have their uses as part of the Tempest Dynasty's arsenal, as the tank has more health than the GDF's hunter tank and can win this duel, while the salvage van has several utility functions, first of which is to deploy into a salvage center as a repair facility armed with a top turret, which also expands your base construction range. Since the Boar tank is bad at destroying infantry, you might as well chase them down and run them over, but do know the AI is aware of this. Another deployable structure, but this one able to heal infantry, is the Tempest Dynasty's first support power, called Field Infirmary, with a cooldown timer of 120 seconds and the cost of 2,500 credits. When you combine it with a salvage center for repair of vehicles, you create a very good defensive and support post.
Construction complete.
When bullets start to fly, you should switch from the logistics plan in your HQ to one of the other two, the Marshall plan, which buffs units with 10% attack speed and increases their resistance to rockets and explosions, while enabling the Tempest Dynamo option for several units, letting them damage themselves to increase their firepower. Or you can enable the security plan to reduce building and unit costs by 5%, improve repair by 15%, and radar vision by 30%. With the Specialist Bureau constructed, you unlock the Line Officer, Operative, and the Machinist in the Barracks, each one with their own special abilities, and you can recruit all three at the same time. The Operative is an anti-vehicle sniper, has passive stealth ability and an active sensor interference ability which disables enemy aircraft targeting systems. The line officer can inspire other infantry units and increase their performance for a short time. It can also commandeer a friendly vehicle and maximize its veterancy level immediately, raising its stats across the board. The Machinist is heavily armored in a mechanized exoskeleton with the ability to switch between using a Voltaic projector, a powerful weapon, or a searchlight sensor, a stealth detection tool. He can also repair vehicles and structures and enable Tempest Dynamos to damage himself for extra firepower. Since Tempest Rising supports multiple main bases, meaning HQ buildings, you can recruit mobile construction vehicles and send them out on the map to deploy into additional construction yards. By doing so, you can now enable another Tempest Dynasty plan at the same time, allowing you to have all three with 3 deployed construction yards on the map, but each one costs more and more power. There is a doctrine that allows Dynasty construction yards to generate credits when plans are active on them, so this is another benefit of having multiple ones. To tech up and unlock even more units, you need to manually upgrade one construction yard to a Bastion, which comes with a power boost once completed. Another Tempest Dynasty support power is called the Guard, costing 3000 credits and having a 180-second cooldown. Once used on friendly buildings, you gain 3 Dynasty Guards and 2 Missile Troopers for up to 4 buildings, with Assault Gunners for upgraded buildings. The Machine Shop, Barracks, Radar Station and Power Plants are also upgradable, costing credits and extra power, but only then can you recruit other top-tier Tempest Dynasty units from them. You should keep in mind that you can't research every single doctrine, but only 11 and in a linear path down their trees. This way you can specialize your build and boost only the units you like or want to use the most. The Air Factory is Tempest Dynasty's window into air power projection with 4 different airframes, out of which only 2, the Matchstick and Dragonfly, need to reload at the Air Factory's landing pads, or any additional ones you construct, while the other 2, the Hammerhead and Leveler, reload passively while in flight. Tempest Dynasty's most powerful support power is the Instability Missile, which costs 3500 credits and has a 180-second cooldown, carries concentrated Tempest, and once it lands, it not only damages buildings and units, but adds the Tempest Overflow debuff on them, making them highly susceptible to many Tempest Dynasty's units, which deal extra damage when this debuff is applied. The Mine Drop costs 1200 credits with a cooldown of 80 seconds and takes a while to deploy on a targeted location by airdrop. The 9 mines are however very potent and lethal. Now you might have noticed my units aren't attacking enemy buildings except for turrets. This is because I have another option toggled, this one called Default Unit Attack Behavior, and it can be switched from attacking only threats automatically to all targets in the game options menu. If I now want to take over this Tempest field and its Tempest regenerating root node, I can deploy a salvage van into a salvage center, giving me a construction range in which I can deploy turrets. Rebuilding the Mercenary outpost here would have achieved a similar result. The most powerful turret of the Tempest Dynasty faction is the Voltaic Railgun. Not only does it have 2 barrels and its damage spreads to those enemies next to its current target, it can also kill targets affected by Tempest Overflow, setting up a salvage van and instantly deploying a Voltaic Railgun turret to destroy enemies or defend your harvesters while continuously repairing it is very satisfying. There are several other top-tier Tempest Dynasty units which also use the same technology and main weapon. The Voltaic Tank and the Demolitionist, chief among them. Both can use the Tempest Dynamos to damage themselves for extra firepower, while the tank has 2 passives which help to disable structures and kill enemies faster. The Demolitionist can be both a melee and range expert, changing to a pile driver to fight infantry mech to hand. Both of these have Achilles heels and can be made inert by some tricky GDF units. This is what I will cover in my next complete tutorial on the Global Defense Force faction. Assault Gunner is another high damage output and high-tech infantry unit which can use the Tempest Dynamo's ability and has passive suppressive rounds, which reduce enemy capabilities. It can even target enemy air units, but it is weak against vehicles, especially the ones with weapon types to which it has low armor. One more top tier unit, which has incredible capabilities and has become somewhat of a rolling meme in the Tempest Dynasty community, is the Tempest Tempest Sphere. Its legendary meme status is only matched by its high health pool and the ability to run over practically everything in its path. It even has an active ability called Tempest Engine, which allows it to dash forward and deal damage to everything it touches. The last Tempest Dynasty support power I need to talk about is the Lockdown, costing 2000 credits, having a 120-second cooldown, and when applied to buildings, it not only reduces damage done to them, but also makes them immune to capture. The visual walls that come up are just cherry on the cake. And yes, you can completely take over every enemy building in Tempest Rising using the almighty engineer of either faction. But do note, it is a process and not instant, allowing the enemy to react with a lockdown ability, backing up a building, or deploying a turret and frying your engineers. But once you take over an enemy HQ, you gain every one of its construction options and even active abilities or plans in the case of Tempest Dynasty. One more unit ability I need to mention in the Tempest Dynasty's air arsenal is the long-range bombardment of the leveler called Barrage. Best used against enemy armored units, it can melt them in seconds. The Porcupine MLRS has been featured heavily in these clips, and with good reason, as its building busting in direct burst fire is amazing, but its ammo has to be reloaded on the spot, and so it is not good against enemy units. Now I have to mention the Commando and the Physicist Elite Specialists. These two are the top of the tech tree and very hard to get to. The Physicist uses a weapon with a Tempest Pulse to hit an area and all the units in it. The Commando, on the other hand, is a stealthy specialist with the special ability to call in a very powerful airstrike on a targeted location. Once I finish and post the tutorial for the GDF faction, I will make an ultimate guide for everything related to Tempest Rising with a lot more tips and tricks that Brandon Wayward Castile and his team hid throughout the game. Like the tip we got from him about turrets, which are boosted by the distribution mode of a nearby power plant, gaining a 20% attack speed bonus, which can be stacked to 40% with 2 power plants running in this alternate mode. If you have your own tips to share, please do so in the comments and I will make sure to add them to the ultimate guide. If I have missed to talk about anything related to Tempest Dynasty's faction, do tell me so. Thank you for watching and see you in the multiplayer.